very
yeah.
much.
So, I have to
Connect.
put the,
I'll plug that in.
how can I do it?
There, in front there.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. You have to connect the mic, right?
You sure? Yesterday or the other days it was facing the other way. But are you sure? Is it's on and it's
You want to?
no. I don't care. But the other days it was facing the other way.
Yeah.
For the sake. So just making sure it's working.
How can I change it? I know.
But you can see it's working. That's fine.
Yeah,
Then that's fine. Then it's fine. I don't. Yeah. No. I just want to make sure it's working. Then, yeah, that's a good point. But if it's working now, that's fine. Then we're fine. Oh. Okay. Okay, thank you. You too. Okay, so today we're going to start with DSGE model versions of the things we've seen before. So the idea, and that's the idea of the course that I had, is again, hearing things a couple of times is always useful, and now also to connect then these more dynamic, mathematically quantitative models back to things that intuitively you've learned and now we've reviewed and hopefully sit tight. So the new Keynesian model is going to be a model where we have equilibrium in the goods market. All right, so think back to our first model. It's going to be a closed economy. And instead of assuming that prices are fixed, right, and then wondering, well, if prices adjust, then maybe there's not effect, and the speed with which prices do adjust is going to affect the magnitude of, say, a government expenditure increase. We're going to specify now how prices are likely to adjust. Right? We're going to have a micro foundation. Right? So we're going to have the same sort of optimizing behavior on behalf of the firms, right, that we thought about a couple days ago with households and the consumption savings problem. So in some sense, all we're going to do is to take the ISLM model, the ISTR model that we've reviewed and that you understand and that you know how it works, and move it up a notch. We're going to now give numbers, give central banks the ability to quantify these effects, right? Because the difficulty that the ISLM model presents us with is it might say expansionary monetary policy could help during the recession. Okay, that's good. But the president or governor or minister of the central bank needs to know, well, by how much should I lower the nominal interest rate? Should I lower it by 25 basis points or 50 basis points or 75 basis points? When should I do that? For how long? These are actual decisions that they need to make. Right? And the ISLM model has a very hard time helping us with that. So it's very good for our intuitive understanding as, let's say, economists or academics. It might be good for giving politicians, say, a basic intuitive understanding of what policy might do qualitatively, but actual policy implementation requires a quantitative assessment of what goes on. And so that's what we're going to do with the new Keynesian models. We're going to spell out the quantitative effects. Right? So that's advantage or moving up a notch one with the DSGE models, dynamic stochastic general equilibrium. And the second one is that because we have optimizing behavior on the side of the households and the firms, we have ourselves a laboratory where we can run experiments, right, that physicists can run, but we usually cannot. Right, well, didn't we have this with ISLM? Well, remember, we started to criticize, say, the consumption function. The consumption function that we used in the ISLM model assumed that consumption was a constant function of disposable income. Right? It moved lockstep. Right? Our aggregate consumption was just a zombie or robot walking around. Right? And we already saw in the consumption savings model, well, wait a second, this isn't true. As we start to change the interest rate, depending on whether you're a saver or a borrower, right, this might have different effects you're going to respond differently to, but you're certainly going to respond to these interest rates. So there's going to be an endogenous response of agents to changes in policy. And if we re-specify policy completely differently, it would be problematic to assume that agents will continue to follow the same static behavior rules as before. Right? And this is all sort of encompassed or couched in the term in macroeconomics, or in economics in general, that we call the Lucas critique. This is by Nobel Prize winner Robert E. Lucas Jr., or Bob Lucas, right, who simply noticed that if we take an econometric model, so think of things that you may have done with Michael Binder or Uwe Hassler, and there's a lot of discussion, a lot of care that they try to take in their analyses to deal with endogeneity, right, or identification. Are these terms that you've heard come up? Probably. And the reason why we saw this with the chess game analogy at the very beginning of this course is that if we estimate parameters based on past evidence, so we've watched people play the game of chess, and we've determined, right, how they're going to respond or react, so we have some set of parameters, theta, and then we change the rules of the game. If we're going to try to predict the outcome, it would be heroically naive to assume that players would continue to play the game the same way they played before, if they are also aware, observe, or learn that the rules have changed. Which means the parameters that we estimated by looking into the past are no longer valid when we change the rules of the game. So how can we make predictions about what is likely to happen in the economy when we change the rules? One way of changing the rules would be specifying policy differently. So what happens if we go from managing the money supply to managing the nominal interest rate? That's a clear example of a change in the rules of the game. Will agents, households, and firms likely behave the same way or with the same static correlations, relationships that we saw under control of the money supply when we start controlling the nominal interest rate? It's very likely that they will not. So how can we predict or understand what they might do? Well, we need a model that incorporates one level of abstraction before for households and firms. How did they get to the decision before on a fixed money supply? And if this same decision-making process is now applied under the changed rules of the game, what decision will they now come to? And so the decision process that we follow in economics, right, we let ourselves be informed by microeconomists who study individual decision-making, which is why we looked, for example, in the consumption savings model at this utility maximization by households. microeconomists have invested a lot of effort, and right, this is a very good starting point for understanding, again, not the finished decision that agents come to, but the process by which they get to the decision. And we're going to do the same thing for firms. Firms are going to be maximizing profits. And so if we have that firms maximize profits and households maximize utility, then if we change the rules of the game, we'll examine how households and firms change their decisions. So now we'll be able to make predictions about outcomes in unprecedented situations, right? Really giving us this laboratory that we are missing in macroeconomics that so many other disciplines have. All right, so yesterday we looked at financial markets, right? And we're going to see, again, right, today we'll see some arbitrage arguments that's going to keep coming up, and we'll see financial markets and also the effects of, say, imperfect financial markets in the last model, DSGE model, that we're going to look at. All right, so I've told you it's important now to think about households, how they get to their decision, right? And we're going to apply the same to firms, right? And we're going to bring this together in equilibrium. Right? So we have the same ISLM framework in some sense, where we now going to have a dynamic adjustment of prices. And we're going to get to the decision rules by first examining the incentives that households and firms face. Right, so if we compare this to a classical model, right, so like a model that we looked at the consumption savings, we didn't talk about prices, nominal prices, and how they're formed. Right, we can think about the first models with optimizing agents in macro, so more like real business cycle models. Right, and these models tend to first examine, like we did with the financial markets, complete perfect markets. And we're going to examine the consequences of two deviations from perfect markets. So the first setup, or the first deviation that we have, is monopolistic competition due to the assumption of differentiated goods. Right? If we look at a model with perfect competition, the argument is if there is, right, right, just think of going to a market. If there's one person selling the black marker for 10,000 dong, and another person sells the market for 8,000 dong, well, if it's the same, if they're identical, I'll buy the cheaper market. I'll buy the cheaper marker. Right? And so if we have many different people selling identical products, right, the person who sells it for the cheapest is going to capture the entire market. Well, wait a second. I see that I'm not selling any markers, and this person's selling a marker. So I'm going to come in and sell my markers for a little bit less than their price. And now everyone's going to come to me. I see that. I'm not selling any markers anymore. I'm going to keep lowering my price, right, until I capture people. So we have people bidding prices down, and they're going to bid prices down if we have lots and lots, mathematically think infinite number of people selling markers. We're going to go as low as we can possibly go. So maybe, well, it costs me as a seller to get this marker, it cost me 2,000 dong per marker. You know, I'm going to end up selling this because I have an infinite number of competitors. Right? If I sell it for 3,000 dong, someone could come in and sell it for 2,500 dong. I don't know if, we can start, or 2,001 dong. I don't know if you can't get one dong, but intuitively. So we're going to drive the price down to the marginal cost. Right, so under perfect markets, under perfect competition, we would expect all the prices to be equal to marginal costs. Right? Competition is going to drive prices down to marginal cost. Now, but the key assumption here is that we have identical goods. So did anyone take a close look at these? One is sealed, one is not sealed. Oh, they're not identical. Yeah? I'd be willing to pay more for the sealed one than the broken one. This one is likely brand new, this one is not. Right? There's also some other small differences. I can probably figure out one is slightly different labels. Maybe one is older than the other or newer than the other. These items become a little bit different. Think about maybe your favorite dish. I don't know, maybe you like broken rice. It's the same everywhere, right? Well, no, it's not, right? There's some places where it's really good, right? And you have maybe your favorite spot to go get a certain, even though they're selling the same good, they're differentiated. One person uses a little more fish sauce or whatever, or someone else has fresher herbs or better rice or this or that. They differentiate themselves. They're different. And so they can get away with selling a different price because they're not selling the exact same good, right? They're still going to be in competition. There's not a monopoly, right? If your favorite place for broken rice, how do you say that in Vietnamese? I always forget. Cam Tam? Cam Tam. Huh? If Cam Tam and your favorite place costs 150,000 dong, ooh, that's pretty expensive, right? Well, this other place, it's not quite as good. Their Cam Tam isn't quite as good as my favorite place, but it only costs 50,000 dong. I'm going to buy the cheaper one. Right? I would prefer to buy the other one, but its price is a little too high. So if my favorite Cam Tam place lowers their price maybe to 75,000 dong, okay, I'm willing to pay the extra 25,000 dong every once in a while to have the best Cam Tam in the world. You see what's going to go on here? We're going to have some competition. It's going to force people selling products to get their prices to move along with each other, but they're going to still be able to have different prices. Their goods aren't going to be perfectly substitutable. The perfect Cam Tam, is not the same as the Cam Tam in the canteen. It's not the same. They're substitutable to some extent, but not perfectly substitutable. And there are also some days where, I can't go to my favorite Cam Tam place because it's in Ho Chi Minh City, and I'm out here in Ben Cat, and I don't have time to go somewhere else. So I have to go to the canteen, and they have something different to eat. Well, it's substitutable. I'm hungry. I need to eat. I would prefer Cam Tam. I prefer my favorite Cam Tam, but I'm going to have to choose something different. Right? So we're going to have now a market imperfection that, when you think about it, isn't a strange assumption, but is really just reality. There's nowhere in this world where you have an infinite number of sellers selling exactly the same item. Even when you go to a marketplace, the different sellers there are going to try to differentiate their products. They're going to maybe no, mine is better than theirs. The colors, it's better ingredients, or that the cotton in the shirt is better. They're going to put through a lot of effort to make sure you see how different their goods are, so that they can justify charging you a higher price. And that's reality. There's nowhere, even water, H2O. You have different types of water when you go to a grocery store. I mean, it's from Nestle. You can say what you want about Nestle and water, right? You can say a lot of things about that. But, this isn't just water. Do you notice this? There's calcium, magnesium. Oh, it's got minerals, and it has a pH of 8 points. They're trying very hard to differentiate. There's water and there's la vie, right? They're differentiating even on something that's as homogeneous as water. If water is clean, I mean, I like water. Do you like water? Yeah, we all like water. But is water something where you're like, that's a good water, but I prefer the 2023 La Vie Edition water. Most people aren't, because it's not that different. In Germany, there's this a commercial, an advertisement on TV for a while ago that I thought was just hilarious. We had Cleopatra, who was a queen or ruler of in Egypt thousands of years ago, and she has her servants bringing her water, and doesn't like this water, and then the servant brings her the Gerolsteiner, which is a German water company like La Vie, and it's called the Queen of the Waters. And Cleopatra drinks that water and she's happy, right? I don't know. I've tried Gerolsteiner, and you know what? It's good. It's water, right? And water is good. I like my water to be clean, right? And that's about it. But even there, so even in something that should be as homogeneous as water, we see differentiation, be it even just in the labeling, right? Okay, so what does this mean? Well, if my product is different, Nestle can choose the price for this. This is important. When we have a classical economy, when we have perfect markets, you don't get to choose your price, right? Your price is equal to your marginal costs, or you sell nothing and you go out of business, right? So there's no, but how do you, right? So price is equal to marginal cost. How does this come about, right? We have, do we see people selling products that don't sell any? Like the price discovery process isn't modeled. We have a mechanism, say a Walrasian auctioneer, right, that finds people's demand curves, finds people's supply curves, or the other way around from your perspective. Right, so demand curves and supply curves, matches them up and says, okay, that's the price, marginal cost there, this is how much water is going to be produced. I've never met this Walrus person. I don't know about you. I've seen auctioneers. We have auctions, right? Do you do auctioning in Vietnam? We have like someone selling, and you have lots of different people in a room trying to buy it, right? You don't have it, or you do? You do. So have you ever seen, I don't know if that's going to pick up the I can see if I can see the video. This is, do we have a speaker here? No. So
almost every profession has its own.
This is worth the time. So if you've English, it's a foreign language, and you all speak and understand English fantastically. I'm really impressed. So I'm from America, and the way that auctions are done, people from England can't understand what Americans do with auctions. Let's see if we have the. It's crazy.
And style gets you the goal. Welcome to the World Livestock Auctioneer Championship. absolutely the Super Bowl. This is my fourth time in the contest. Oklahoman Bailey Ballou is one of 10 finalists, whittled down from a pool of the best 33 auctioneers in the country. Once I got past the nerves,
But-
got into the finals, I felt a lot better. And so I think they really got to see who I am, how I sell it.
Let's see, nice. Let's just livestock auction, USA style. Yeah, this is sold $61.50. Did you understand what he was saying the whole time? So that's the Walrasian auctioneer in my mind when everyone says that. I've seen it, so that's where I come from in America. I come from the center of America, from the Wild West. So I understand theoretically a Walrasian auctioneer as much as I understand the American livestock auctioneer, right? So what I mean by that, so it's kind of funny, and hopefully I've got you in good spirits, but it doesn't seem realistic. Yeah? I make a product, and I get to set the price. And why? Like, it's my product, and there's no mysterious auctioneer in the background that equates supply and demand, but I have my own product, and I set the price. Yeah? It's Alex's Kamtam. Huh? And it's going to be Kamtam with a German-American twist on it, right? It's different. It's my product. It's differentiated, so I get to set the price. And if I set it too high, I probably won't sell a whole lot. If I set it too low, I'll sell a whole lot, but I won't make a lot of money. This seems to be absolutely not surprising. This is the way we understand setting up a business to work. Be it a large business like Apple, or a small restaurant selling Kamtam. We also have something called staggered price setting. So I can set the price of my good. It's my good. I can set my price. I can change my price. We don't see prices changing as often as I think they should change, right? So if there's a high demand for a product, what should happen to its price? It should go up, right? If there's low demand, it should go down, right? So when I go to the canteen, a meal costs 35,000 dong, right? So if we go to lunch early, if I go to lunch at 11:30, it's going to cost less, right? Because there's less demand. And if I go during lunchtime, when there's a long line, it's going to cost more, right? But you just said when there's more demand, the price goes up. And when there's less demand, the price goes down. Wait a second. This doesn't seem to happen quite all the time in reality. We think of this maybe at a marketplace, conceptually, but frequently people set a price and they keep it constant for quite a while. Now, we can look at so how about V and D? Well, this is useless. Okay, let's just look at a. So over the last 5 days, right, the exchange rate, with the right has first it went up, so we had here it's the inverse, so we had a depreciation, and now we've had an appreciation again of the dong, right? Now, some of the, let's say some of the ingredients at the canteen are from Vietnam, but some of the ingredients are imported. So some of their imports, some of their costs, first